Me when someone I've been dating comes to my place for the first time and I make her a drink.
It's a strange bottle of strawberry cream into there too. Because it's a kind of an alcoholic milkshake for lonely people late at night on trains.
Me when someone suggests I'm a lazy e-beggar and I should get a proper job. And this is me when someone offers me a non-alcoholic drink at a social event. Folks, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to talk about the top 7 fragrance myths that I'm going to bust for you. I'm going to bust these fragrance myths. Before we do that, don't forget, if you want to buy fragrance samples in the USA, Canada or Puerto Rico, please go to myfragrancesamples.com. Great site with an amazing range of designer and niche scents. Go there, link in the description. Let's get into it, guys. So we've got 7 fragrance myths that I think, these are commonly perpetrated by others in the community. I'm going to dispel these myths for you. Myth 1, seasons. The first myth out there is that there are certain fragrances which strictly must be worn in certain seasons. So fresh citrusy fragrances are really for summertime or maybe springtime, and things with oud and vanilla and leather should only be worn in the wintertime. And people are saying, oh, thank goodness it's October, I can get out my leather fragrances again because I couldn't wear them. No, you can wear anything you want anytime. First of all, if you wear something really fresh like Neroli Portofino or what have we got here, Eau de Fleur de Cedrat from Guerlain, no reason you can't smell fresh and citrusy in the wintertime. Why? It doesn't make sense. I don't... Okay, you might want to wear something a bit more heavy and rich on a cold evening. I get it, but there really is no reason to wear... or to put your citrus and aquatic fragrances away for 6 months of the year. Absolute nonsense. And likewise, the other way around. Absolutely no reason why you can't wear something with oud in it or leathery any time that you want. Maybe when it's really, really swelteringly hot. I do admit soapy, fresh things work a bit better. But, oud fragrances come from the Middle East where it's hot pretty much all the time. So that tells you something. Don't listen to this nonsense. People just need excuses to make lists. So, oh, this is your spring fragrances. These are your summer ones. What's the difference between autumn and winter fragrances? Even if you do believe in this to any extent, it's just stupid. Okay, so that's the first myth. I've dispelled it. Next up, performance. This is a big myth, okay? So there is a myth out there that one of the most important factors when you're talking about a fragrance is its performance. It has to last and project really strongly through the air. And people will try and tell you on videos or in reviews on Fragrantica that they can almost measure the how far the thing projects through the air. Which, I mean, how can anyone really do that? Your nose is here. How can you tell if it's projecting an arm's length away from you unless you have people gradually stepping back 10 centimeters at a time and telling you when they can't? It's just ridiculous. And the idea that people... The idea you can measure this easily and quantify qualitatively, this one is a good performer, this one's weak, absolutely not true. You'll see on Fragrantica loads of people have different opinions. So some people will say, oh, this one's lasted 5 seconds on my skin, and then the next person will say it lasted all day. So you can't really measure this easily. There will be some that are stronger than others. Of course, I'm not saying that, of course, some of the heavy amouage oud fragrances or something likely last or a bit more noticeable, let's say, than a Creed Neroli Sauvage, for example. That's probably true. But the other thing is that it doesn't, it's not necessarily an unambiguously good thing that a fragrance is really strong. So, a lot of people don't want you to stink of fragrance when you're going in the office or even when you go on a date. So, if you really love a fragrance, even if performance is poor, don't let that put you off buying it. Just buy it and spray more. Take a decant with you. It's no big deal. Honestly, just don't get hung up on this stuff. Third myth that I'm going to dispel. The idea of masculine and feminine in fragrances. So some people will say, oh, this one leans too feminine for me, so I love the smell, but I can't wear it. Or, maybe vice versa. They'll say, I love the smell, but it's too masculine. Well, that's silly. Anything can be worn by anyone in this day and in age. I'm not getting all political, but, there are no genders when it comes to fragrances, really. Things are marketed towards men or women a lot of the time, although a lot of niche stuff isn't. Designer ones tend to be marketed that way because people seem to find that easier to understand. Doesn't matter. I have floral fragrances that I can enjoy wearing perfectly well, and gourmandish ones which could be deemed feminine, and there's no reason like that a fresh kind of citrusy Acqua di Gio or something, or even Creed Green Irish Tweed could not smell absolutely amazing on a woman, or a Rolfa by Creed, which I think due to that bottle style they tend to sort of be that's the male line. No problem, men or women, wear what you like. Okay, next up I'm going to dispel another myth. the idea that niche is better than designer. So we think of, oh, niche quality. Oh, this is, you can tell this is only a designer fragrance. So there's this idea that because they cost more, niche fragrances are better than designer. Designer being your, your Chanel fragrances, or here's an old Dolce & Gabbana one. And niche, if you're not familiar, being, stuff like Creed or Amouage, where they really only make fragrances priced a bit higher. Whereas, your Dolce & Gabbana, Chanel also make clothes and handbags or maybe jewelry or whatever. You get it? Okay, so in fact, oftentimes, in terms of actually being popular and people liking the smell, designer fragrances are more popular. They seem to be safer. And so there's absolutely no reason that if you want to smell good and be appreciated by people, just have something practical that's nice to wear, you need to spend niche money, and that it's going to be qualitatively better. And some of the best designer stuff, like your Chanel and your Dior or your Galan fragrances, really do compete quality-wise, as well as just in popularity of the smell, with anything from a niche house. In fact, they may be better. Number 5 myth that I'm going to dispel, guys. Oh, by the way, don't forget to go to nortonandwilson.com, link in the description. We've revamped the website a bit, and we're gonna upgrade it yet more. But we have a new version of the website. Get yourself Gravitas Essentia or Bon Vivant, great for the summer or spring. Oh no, there's not supposed to be season. Any time of the year. Great fragrances. Thank you to perfumer John Stephen, who created them in conjunction with us. Go there, link in description. Okay. Next up, 5. This is another myth. You need several fragrances, all these different ones for different occasions. You need a work fragrance. You need something for special occasions. And you need a date night fragrance. And you need a summer fragrance. And you need a fragrance for for sport, or crazy things like this you hear. For an interview, don't wear a fragrance to an interview. That's just don't wear a fragrance. Just be clean in an interview, or even for having sex and stuff. No, you don't need more than one fragrance really. Maybe 1 or 2. You might have something a bit fancy that's a bit overblown for wearing to the office. So you can just have one fragrance. And a lot of men, when I was growing up, if they even had a fragrance, like my dad, it was just one fragrance. And if he wore a fragrance, which he didn't all that often, it would just be Givenchy Gentleman Vintage. I probably wouldn't pick that as my only fragrance, but let's say you had Creed Arolfa as your only fragrance, and wore it any time that you wore a fragrance, or all the time. Great choice, fantastic. You don't need loads of fragrances at all. It's only if you like this hobby, great, good for you. I've got hundreds, but you don't need them. You don't need them at all. Next up, another myth I'd like to dispel. That new things are best. We have to be all, oh, what's the new release? I'm keen to see what this house will come out with next. Oh, have you heard about the new Jean Paul Gaultier Le Male, the 27th flanker of this year for that one? New stuff is not always the most exciting. Don't be waiting on new releases. Follow your own nose and find there's so many thousands of infinite numbers of fragrances out there from yesteryear that are still made today and still great. Explore what's out there already. Forget this new stuff. And if you go in a department store and they're saying, oh, this is the new one from Dolce & Gabbana, this is the new YSL, say, I don't care what the new one is. That's what you want me to buy to make money. I want to know what's good. So forget about new stuff being the most interesting thing that you can discover in the fragrance world. It's probably not. And the final myth that I would like to dispel is myth 7, that when you get into this hobby at first, you're a so-called newbie and you need to train your nose and your taste will develop and all this kind of thing. To an extent, yeah, there might be things that you found a bit weird at first that you'll come to love when you get into smelling more fragrances. I get that to some extent, but really, quite honestly, you don't have to have any great skill to understand and appreciate fragrances any more than you have to have great skill and knowledge of chord progressions or scales to understand what kind of music you love to dance to and enjoy. So, just enjoy the hobby. The stuff that you like and smells good is fine. Don't think that you need to up your game or develop and you're just starting out, so you should only like cheapies or only like designer, or I must tiptoe into the world of niche. I must wait till I'm ready. No, just buy try everything, buy what you like. It's really not that hard to smell something. You don't have to. Nobody really cares. It doesn't matter if you pick out cardamom correctly and you pick out that it's got this ethyl maltol or whatever in it. It doesn't bergamot if you pick out Bulgarian rose. Okay, good for you, Mr. Fancy Pants, if you can smell those things. But if you just smell something, say, hey, I like this. It smells really uplifting and happy and citrusy and fresh and vibrant and, adjectives we can all understand. This one smells green. This one smells a bit woody. This one smells a bit leathery. Simple terms are enough for you to understand and articulate your appreciation of fragrances. Don't listen to snobs who say you have to develop your nose. Those myths, 7 of them, dispelled by Mr. Smelly. If you enjoyed me being a bit different, you could subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and even if you didn't enjoy the video, why not subscribe anyway? The next video might be better. It could hardly be any worse. I will leave it there. Remember, whatever you're doing in life, let's project, and although life sometimes really can stink, at least we can always smell good. I think I'll wear this one. Milano Cento, a great fragrance made in England, sort of themed after all things Italian, as the name suggests. I really like it. Let's see you in the next one, guys. Bye.